Hey everyone, ready to dive deep into mastering the American accent?
We've got this awesome guide that's going to help us break it all down.
Yeah, it's got everything like how to make the sounds the rhythm.
Even those subtle things that make it sound super authentic.
So let's jump right in.
You know what I think is really cool about this guide? It goes way beyond just like trying to copy the sounds.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it really gets into like why the American accent sounds the way it does.
Okay, so like where do we even begin with all that?
Well, it starts with some of those like really distinctive features of the American accent. You know, those things that just instantly make you sound American.
Right.
We've got those R-colored vowels, which are super interesting.
Eye-colored vowels?
Yeah. Like think about the word car,
Right.
that R sound. It doesn't just hang out at the end. It kind of like changes the whole vowel sound,
Yeah,
making it distinctly American.
right. Car doesn't sound like ka. It's got that R kind of blended in.
Exactly.
So it's not just about the R itself, it's how it affects the vowel.
Exactly. And to really nail that sound, the guy explains how it comes down to tongue placement.
Ah, okay.
You have to pull your tongue back a bit, almost like you're about to say an R, but not quite touching the roof of your mouth.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting ready to say the R, but holding back just a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to move on to something a bit more casual.
You're talking about the flap T, right?
Yes.
That's one of my favorite quirks of American English.
I know, it's so interesting. The guide gives this example of butter becoming butter.
Right.
I mean, where'd that D come from?
Well, technically it's still a T sound,
Oh, okay.
but it's made super fast.
Okay.
When a T comes between two vowel sounds, especially an unstressed vowel and a stressed one, Americans tend to just flap their tongue against the roof of their mouth really quickly,
Oh,
and it creates a sound that's closer to a D.
so it's not about laziness. It's an actual phonetic phenomenon.
Exactly. And it's not just butter.
Oh, right.
It happens with tons of words like water becoming water, little becoming little, and city becoming city.
Wow. I never realized how much that happens. I mean, I do it myself, but I never thought about the mechanics of it.
Right.
So it's not just about pronouncing each letter perfectly. It's about understanding
Yeah.
these subtle shifts.
Right. And the guide even mentions that sometimes in casual speech, Americans drop the T completely in words like internet, making it sound like internet.
Oh, yeah. I definitely do that. I never thought of it as an American accent thing, though. It's
yeah.
more like a natural flow of speech.
Yeah.
But speaking of flow, what about the whole rhythm and melody aspect? The guide talks about that.
Yeah, that's where the musicality of the American accent comes in. It's
I
not
forgot.
just about the individual sounds, it's about how you string them all together.
Okay.
Americans tend to stress certain words in a sentence, which creates a kind of rhythm.
Uh,
For example, think about the sentence. Are you ready?
okay.
You naturally raise your pitch towards the end, right?
Yeah.
Now say, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Notice how your voice falls at the end.
Yeah, you're right. It's almost like two different melodies, even though the words are practically the same.
Right.
And I've noticed that Americans really emphasize certain words in a sentence while other words are almost glossed over.
Exactly.
Like they kind of emphasize certain words more.
Yeah, it's called stress timing. Content, words like nouns and verbs get more emphasis, while those function words like articles and prepositions are kind of mumbled.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like in the sentence, I'm going to the store, it becomes more like, I'm going to the store.
That's it. And this is where a technique called shadowing can be super helpful.
Shadowing.
Yeah, the guide suggests finding some American media, like a TV show or a podcast, and trying to speak along with the audio.
Oh,
It helps you get a feel for that natural rhythm and intonation.
that's a great tip.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for ways to like improve my listening skills, so that sounds fun.
Yeah.
But you know what else is tricky?
What's that?
That American R sound.
Mm.
It's like a mythical creature for non-native speakers.
Oh, yeah. The R can be tough. The guide has a whole section dedicated to mastering it with detailed instructions on tongue placement and practice words like write, run, read, star, and teacher.
I can already feel my tongue getting a workout just thinking about those words.
Yeah?
Seriously, having a guide like this that breaks down the mechanics
Yeah.
is so valuable.
Yeah, it is.
So we've got vowels, we've got consonants, we've got rhythm, but there's got to be more, right?
Oh, there's a whole other layer we haven't even touched on yet. The world of regional variations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how different the American accent can sound depending on where you are in the U.S.
Right.
But that's a conversation for another time. We've covered so much ground already.
Yeah, we have.
Let's give our listeners a chance to digest all this before we move on.
Welcome back. Ready to keep digging into this American accent stuff.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see what else this guide has for us.
Yeah.
We talked about like individual sounds and even the rhythm. But what else makes it sound, really authentic?
Well, think about it. Like when we speak, we don't just pronounce each word in isolation.
Right.
Our words kind of flow together.
Yeah.
And that creates a certain smoothness.
Right. It's not robotic or anything.
Exactly. But how do you actually learn to do that?
Right. It seems so natural for native speakers.
It is natural, but you can actually train yourself to do it too.
Okay.
The guide talks about this concept called linking.
Linking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you connect the final sound of one word with the beginning sound of the next.
Okay.
So instead of saying, I am going to, you would say, I'm gonna.
Oh, so it's those contractions and blends we use all the time.
Exactly.
I never thought of it as a technique.
It's definitely something that native speakers just do without thinking about it.
Right.
But being aware of it can really help you improve your fluency
Oh, okay.
and make your accent sound more natural.
That makes sense.
The guide suggests practicing with common phrases like paying attention to how the words connect.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
I'm going to start paying more attention to that.
Yeah.
But isn't there a danger of overdoing it? Like, would it sound weird if I linked every single word?
That's a good point. With anything, balance is key.
Right.
You don't want to force the connections.
Yeah.
It should just feel natural and comfortable.
Okay.
It's more about listening to how native speakers do it and trying to imitate that natural flow.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, connecting words where it feels natural
Right.
without it being forced.
Exactly.
But I've also noticed that Americans sometimes just drop sounds altogether,
Uh-huh.
especially when they're speaking quickly.
Yeah.
Is that part of this flow too?
That's another really fascinating aspect of the American accent.
Yeah.
It's called reduction.
Reduction.
Yeah. The guide explains that in casual speech, unstressed syllables or sounds often get reduced or even completely dropped.
Oh, wow. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, think about the word interesting.
Okay. Interesting.
In its full form, it has 3 distinct syllables. Interesting.
Right.
But in fast speech, it often gets reduced to interesting.
Oh, wow. You're right. It's like you're almost swallowing that second syllable.
Exactly.
That's so interesting.
And this happens with tons of words.
Oh, I'm sure.
Think about the word and.
Okay.
It often gets reduced to just
Right. Like bread and butter.
exactly. It seems like a small thing, but these reductions are sprinkled throughout American speech, giving it that characteristic rhythm and flow.
This is all making so much more sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about pronouncing every sound perfectly. It's about understanding how those sounds change and interact with each other in natural speech.
Precisely. And the guide emphasizes that one of the best ways to really master these subtle nuances is to immerse yourself in American media.
Right, right.
Listen to podcasts, watch TV shows and movies, pay attention to how native speakers connect words, reduce sounds, and create that effortless flow.
So it's like training your ear to pick up on those little details.
Oh.
But what if you don't have easy access to native speakers or American media?
The guide also suggests shadowing.
Oh, right, shadowing.
Yeah, you find an audio clip of someone speaking with an American accent. You listen carefully and try to imitate everything, their pronunciation, their intonation, their rhythm.
Right. It's like you're becoming a vocal chameleon.
Exactly. And the beauty of shadowing is you can do it anywhere, anytime.
Sure.
It's a fantastic way to train your ear, improve your pronunciation, and get a feel for that natural flow.
I'm definitely going to try that. But, with all this talk about blending and reducing sounds, I can't help but wonder, is it ever appropriate to actually enunciate words clearly and distinctly?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's all about context.
Oh.
In casual conversation, it's perfectly fine to link words, reduce sounds, let your speech flow naturally.
Right.
But in more formal situations, like a job interview or a presentation, you might want to slow down,
Okay.
enunciate more clearly, and avoid those excessive reductions.
That makes sense.
Right.
It's like choosing the right outfit for the occasion.
Exactly.
You wouldn't wear sweatpants to a wedding,
Uh-huh. Exactly.
and you wouldn't use overly casual pronunciation in a formal setting.
It's all about adapting your speech to the situation.
Right.
But remember, even in formal settings, it's still important to maintain that natural American rhythm and intonation.
Okay.
You don't want to sound stiff or robotic.
So it's a balancing act.
It is.
Finding that sweet spot between clarity and naturalness depending on the context.
Exactly. But this guide isn't just about mastering these technical aspects of the accent.
Oh.
It also delves into something really fascinating.
Okay, what's that?
Regional variations.
Oh, yes. We
Yeah.
briefly touched upon that earlier.
Yeah.
I'm so curious to learn more about how the American accent varies across different regions.
Yeah, it's like exploring a whole new world of
It
sounds
is.
and rhythms within just one language.
And that's what we'll be diving into in the next section. Get ready to journey across the U.S. and discover the incredible diversity of American accents.
Okay, so we're back and ready to explore these regional American accents.
Yes.
I'm already picturing a map of the U.S. with all these different sounds
That's a great way to think about it.
swirling around.
This guide really emphasizes that the American accent isn't like a one-size-fits-all thing.
Right.
It's more like a tapestry with all these threads of like regional dialects and influences.
So where do we even begin? I mean, the U.S. is huge.
Well, let's start with one of the most recognizable, the Southern accent.
Ooh, the Southern accent.
Think slow, drawn-out vowels and that signature twang.
I love the Southern accent. It's so warm and welcoming.
It is.
And they have such unique expressions, too, like y'all and fixin' too.
Exactly. It's more than just pronunciation. It's a whole cultural flavor.
It is.
And the guide even points out some phonetic differences.
Oh, like what? Like how the I sound in words like time and ride often gets pronounced more like an ah sound in sub-U accents.
So it's Tom and Rod instead of time and ride.
Exactly.
I can hear it now. It's so distinct.
Right. And then you have the Northeast,
Okay.
which is known for those non-rhotic accents,
non-rhotic.
meaning they tend to drop the R sound at the end of words or syllables.
Yes. The New York accent.
Exactly.
Like ka for car.
Yeah.
Or water for water.
It's almost like a whole other language sometimes.
It really is. And it's not just New York. You have variations all up and down the East Coast,
You do.
each with its own little flavor.
Exactly. Boston, for example, has that distinct accent,
Uh-huh.
famous for dropping R's and adding an R sound before vowels, like idea for idea.
Wow, so many variations. It's amazing how these regional accents can just instantly transport you to a different place,
They really can.
just by hearing them.
Absolutely. And it's not just the pronunciation either. Regional accents also often have their own unique vocabulary and slang.
Right, like in the Midwest, you often hear people say pop instead of soda
Yes,
for carbonated drinks.
exactly. It's fascinating how all these differences developed over time.
It really is. I mean, language is constantly evolving,
It is.
and regional accents are a beautiful reflection of that.
They are. The guide actually encourages us to embrace all this diversity
Okay.
and appreciate the richness it brings to the American accent landscape.
So for someone who wants to master the American accent, is there like a best regional accent to focus on?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
The guide suggests starting with what resonates with you the most.
Okay.
Which accent do you find yourself drawn to? Which one do you think you'd enjoy imitating and practicing?
That makes sense. It's like choosing your favorite flavor of ice cream.
It is.
You wouldn't pick vanilla if you love chocolate,
Yeah.
even if someone told you vanilla was the classic.
Exactly. The key is to find an accent that sparks your interest
Right.
and motivates you to practice.
Makes sense.
And then you can immerse yourself in media from that region, listen to how people speak, and try to incorporate those sounds and rhythms into your own speech.
So if I'm drawn to that Southern charm,
Mm.
I could watch movies and shows set in the South, try to mimic the way they pronounce words, and even practice those delightful Southern expressions.
Exactly. And if you're fascinated by that fast-paced energy of the New York accent, you could listen to podcasts hosted by New Yorkers, practice those non-rhotic R's, and even try to pick up some local slang.
This has been such a cool deep dive. We've gone from like the basic building blocks of the American accent all the way to exploring its regional diversity.
We have.
It's amazing how much depth there is to this accent that we often just take for granted.
It is. And remember, mastering an accent is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
It's about continuous practice, exploration, and embracing that joy of learning a language.
Yeah.
This guide gives you the tools to get started, but the real magic happens when you take those tools and make them your own.
So to everyone out there who's ready for their American accent adventure, we say go for it. Explore different regions, find your favorite sounds, and don't be afraid to experiment.
Have fun with it.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe you'll even discover a hidden talent for mimicking those charming Southern drawls or those iconic New York
You
pronunciations.
never know.
The most important thing is to have fun and enjoy the process.
Exactly.
Happy accent adventures.